and we're seeing our video series where we explore the key differences between Shikai and Bankai. And this time guys, we have a very special guest, someone unlike the rest. After all, he is the one who almost killed Aizen Sōsuke using only his Bankai. He is the character who spent years hiding his true powers from everyone, only revealing them when it truly mattered. Gin Ichimaru, one of the most unique Shinigami, not only because of his personality but also because of his strength and the special powers of his Zanpakuto in both Shikai and Bankai. So let's dive in guys and explore these true abilities of his Zanpakuto, and there is a lot to uncover. And first, let me tell you about something very interesting, a fascinating connection between three figures, Hiraku Shinji, Aizen Sōsuke, and Gin Ichimaru. We know that in the past, Shinji was the captain of the 5th division, and Aizen was his vice captain. Their relationship wasn't built on a strong bond. Shinji never really trusted Aizen, which is why he kept him close, but always with clear boundaries. For example, he never revealed his Shikai's ability, Sakanadi, to Aizen. On the other hand, Aizen also kept his Zanpakuto's true power a secret. In fact, he went even further and he lied to the vice captains, claiming that his Zanpakuto was of the water type, even giving it a fake Shikai ability that looked similar to Shinji's Bankai. However, the important thing here guys is that both sides were hiding their true abilities from each other, and Aizen succeeded in his plan, which eventually led to Shinji and the others being cast out of Soul Society. And Shinji, on the other hand, tried to use Aizen's ignorance of his Shikai ability to fight back against Kyuka's Uegetsu, but of course he failed. And then we have Aizen and Gin. Their situation was similar to Shinji and Aizen's, but with the roles reversed and with an even more complicated game at play. When Hiraku told Aizen that he made him his vice captain because he didn't trust him, Aizen replied that it was actually the opposite, that he was the one who chose Shinji to be his captain, and Shinji's attempts to keep his distance gave Aizen the perfect chance to carry out his plans in secret. And the same thing happened in a way with Aizen and Gin. Gin was the one who chose Aizen. Sure, Aizen eventually realized Gin's intentions, that he wanted to kill him, and he let Gin stay close just to see how he would attempt to kill him. But from the very beginning, Gin became a Shinigami only for one reason: take revenge for Matsumoto. And even though Gin started out as just an ordinary soul in Rikongai, he had incredible spiritual power. When he joined the academy, he graduated in just 1 year, something almost unheard of, since normally it takes 6 years to graduate. For comparison, Hisagi, who was considered one of the most talented students, failed the final exam twice even after completing the full 6 years. That's why, as Okitake said and mentioned, Gin was truly seen as a child prodigy, a genius who completed the academy in record time and was immediately given the rank of a seated officer. Of course, all of this was noticed by Aizen Sōsuke. Aizen wanted Gin on his side, and Gin, in turn, wanted to stay close to him. I believe Aizen must have noticed Gin's brilliance from the academy days, and maybe he even suspected Gin's connection to Matsumoto back then. It was also during this time that Gin began forming the basics of his Zanpakuto. In that famous scene, we see Gin standing over the body of the 3rd stage officer, and Gin coldly described that officer as nothing important. And if you look closely, you notice Gin's sword was no longer just an asauchi. It had already taken on its own unique, shorter form, showing the true nature of his Zanpakuto. And the way Gin killed that officer was terrifying guys. I don't think he even used Shikai, but the slash was so powerful that it literally ripped out the man's insides, which we clearly see in that scene. That brutal act became Aizen's excuse to recruit Gin into his secret team alongside Kamishini. However guys, Gin's true brilliance wasn't just about graduating early, it was also because of his Zanpakuto, Shinsu. And that's why guys, if we look at the word Shinsu and the kanji used for it, it translates to God's spare. And from this guys, we can pull a few important meanings. First of all, the name itself reflects the incredible power of Gin's Shikai. When Gin was young, people called him Hyaponzashi, which means 100 blades, and that nickname came from his sword's ability to extend at lengths that could match about 100 swords. So when we think about it guys, Gin's sword really does resemble a massive spear in terms of speed, strength and range, perfectly matching the meaning of divine spear, and that's also a symbolic connection between Gin and Aizen. You could say that Gin represented the spear, while Aizen was the mastermind who wielded it. In other words, at that time Gin was Gin's weapon, one of the key tools he relied on to push forward his grand plan. And this idea becomes even more important when we talk about Gin's Bankai later guys. So another thing I want to add about Gin's Shikai guys is just how strong it really was. And sadly guys, even though I love so much the first season of Bleach, the anime at that season didn't fully show the true impact of Gin's abilities, especially at the Shikai level. For example, in that scene guys I mentioned earlier, Gin's slash was so brutal that it spelled the officer's guards out. Then against Jidanbo, the giant who guarded the gate to Serity, Gin was able to slice off his massive arm with just a single strike. I mean, in the manga we even get an extra detail not shown in the anime. Orihime had to call on multiple recognized souls just to help place Jidanbo's arm back inside him so she could heal it, and that really shows how devastating Gin's Shikai was. Not to mention its sheer speed and force. The extension of Shinso was strong enough to send both Ichigo and Jidanbo flying several meters away. And of course, I can't forget Gin's attack on Yuri. With just a single strike, he cut her body in half. But Gin guys wasn't just powerful and brutal in the way he used his Zanpakuto. He was also clever and cunning, almost as cunning as the very man he followed, Aizen Sōsuke. What made Gin different was that he had a clear goal, and having a goal is one of the best things in life. It gives you direction, it stops you from wasting years without knowing why you're doing what you're doing. And Gin wasn't like that. Ever since Gin was a child, since the day he saw what happened to Matsumoto and who was responsible, he decided his goal was to kill Aizen Sōsuke. So naturally, once he had that goal, he began searching for the answer to one of Bleach's hardest questions. How? How could he defeat someone like Aizen? At that time, Aizen hadn't yet merged with the Hogyuku, but he already possessed one of the deadliest weapons in Bleach's story, Kyuuka Suigetsu. That's why Gin chose to stay close to Aizen. He wanted to understand his strength, and especially the terrifying ability of his Zanpakuto. Gin spent years trying to figure out the secret behind Kyuuka Suigetsu. And we don't know exactly when Gin achieved Bankai, but it must have been a major turning point in his plan. Because it wasn't enough just to know the weakness of Kyuuka Suigetsu. You also needed a weapon powerful enough to kill Aizen. And this is where Gin unmatched intelligence came into play. When he finally unlocked his Bankai, he played the same trick Aizen used on others. He lied about his true power. He hid its real ability behind something that looked almost identical to his Shikai. Like we've mentioned in other videos, many Zanpakuto have Bankai that are simply stronger extensions of their Shikai, and Gin used this idea brilliantly to deceive Aizen. He told him that his Bankai's ability was just about extending his sword even further to a length of 13 kilometers, with increased destructive force and faster speed in extending and retracting. And these were the same things Gin told Ichigo. And he wasn't completely lying. Maybe he played in the numbers, but it was true that his Bankai was insanely fast. When Gin launched his Bankai, the blade extended at an unbelievable speed, and Gin even compared it to the speed of clapping hands, saying his Bankai was 500 times faster than that. Now there is a debate among fans guys about what Gin really meant when he said, "Did you hear that?" Did he mean the sound of the clap, implying that his sword was 500 times faster than sound? The speed of sound? Or did he mean the actual motion of the hands clapping? And if we went with the data book and what is found in this page, it was about the speed of the hands, not the sound. For example, if we take the average clapping speed as 10 meters per second, then multiplied by 500, that gives us 5,000 meters per second, about Mach 14.5 or more than 14 times the speed of sound. But again, these numbers were part of Gin's cover-up. We don't know the real speed. What's certain is that when Gin used his special techniques Boto, the speed became even greater, and with Boto ranging, it multiplied again, reaching terrifying levels of destruction. However, no matter how destructive his Bankai seemed, able to slice throughout buildings or move faster than sound. All of that was all disguised for its true power. And here is guys where it gets really interesting. The name of Gin's Bankai is Kamishini no Yari. The kanji used in his Shikai is the same, but with one extra word, kill. So instead of just diving spear, it becomes God killing spear. And as I said earlier guys, if we think of Gin as the spear and Aizen as the god or king, then the Bankai's name can be read as the spear that kills Aizen. And when you see what his true Bankai ability is, the name makes perfect sense. Because the real ability of Kamishini no Yari is this. If the blade touches the target, Gin can inject this poison into their body and then it starts breaking down their cells from the inside until they die. And that's Gin's true Bankai power guys. He used the similarities between his Shikai and Bankai to hide his secrets for years, waiting for the perfect moment to unleash it against Aizen Sōsuke. And if it hadn't been for the Hogyuko, Aizen Sōsuke would have been dead a long time ago. So guys, what do you think about the Shikai and the Bankai of Gin, and can we consider it the fastest Zanpakuto in Bleach? Tell me guys your opinions in the comments and see you in my next video.